Hello, happy Thanksgiving, and welcome to Queer Cinema Catchup. I'm Joe.
And I'm Allison.
And as you can see, we're just about to feast. Join us, won't you? So today we're talking about the movie Home for the Holidays. I guess 90s Thanksgiving classic. We thought we'd,
Cook.
And dine.
And
Wow, we talked about the movie.
because this is coming out on Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. So we have our little rotisserie chicken in the front from Lazy Acres. We have a carrot medley, maple Brussels sprouts, blanched green bean olives, and sweet potato mash. Let's dig in and talk about Home for the Holidays.
Yeah. This movie, you said it was a Thanksgiving classic. I had never heard of it before.
Neither did I. I only recognized the movie poster
Really?
from seeing it in Blockbuster when I was a kid.
Oh, okay. I think the idea was that we wanted to find something Thanksgiving
Mm-hmm.
related.
I just watched it happen chance around Thanksgiving last year. I just remember Robert Downey Jr.'s character is gay in the movie.
Oh, you watched it last year. I remember you said that. Okay. Well, it was genius of you.
How hard is it to read a plot synopsis as your...
I guess I'll give you a little summary as I'm serving myself. So the idea is that it's directed by Jodie Foster. It stars Helen...
Not Helen Hunt, but Holly Hunter.
Holly Hunter. We always get those names. This looks really good. Always get those names confused. Okay, so Holly Hunter, single mother. Claire Danes is her teenage daughter. And Holly's gotten fired. It's time to go home for Thanksgiving. She doesn't really want to go home. Her daughter isn't going to be going home because she's staying and hanging out with her boyfriend, with whom she tells her mom she's going to have sex while she's gone. And it's her quirky, strange family that she must contend with. There is some drama, some laughs.
Which Holly's not without her quirks either.
No. In fact, I will say that's one thing about the movie.
That was inconsistent.
No, that I just feel like so many times, and this is a trope, but it's sort of like the quirky person going home to their stuffy family.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one, it's like everyone's kind of weird, except for the sister who's really intense.
Yeah.
I don't know if it worked as well. Do you know what I'm saying? To have everybody kind of be same.
Here, do you want to serve your
Sure.
chicken to yourself?
Sure. But yeah, that's and then I'll read the synopsis that I have in a moment. Home for the Holidays is a 1995 American family comedy drama film directed by Jodie Foster and produced by Peggy Ray Skate and Foster. The screenplay was written by W.D. Richter, based on a short story by Chris Radden. The film score was composed by Mark Isham. The film follows Claudia Larson, who, after losing her job, kissing her ex-boss, and finding out that her daughter has plans of her own for the holidays, departs Chicago, spend Thanksgiving with her dysfunctional family.
The element of her making out with her boss at the beginning of the movie.
Very strange. Well, I thought that was going to have some...
Seems like it didn't have any impact later on.
No, and I also thought maybe the way they presented it, I thought they had a relationship possibly. But they didn't. It was just random.
Why did they have that? So it just shows she was kind of single and...
Looking for love, maybe. I don't know, but what? No, if you're being told you're being fired, and it wasn't like he was a young, hot man. So it's a little strange. Okay.
Well, before we blast into talking about the movie, what are some of your family's Thanksgiving traditions?
It's also my birthday, basically, around that time. So it's all about me. Yeah, we just make a lot of food. And we hang out and we watch maybe a Christmas movie.
Who cooks?
Depends. I mean, we go different places, but my mom or the person's house we're going to.
I got sweet potatoes. I'm also doing Whole30. So this is kind of like ask ChatGPT to give me Whole30 compliant recipes. Spoiler, the green beans have a massive amount of butter, which is not Whole30 compliant.
Well, I thank you then. That's for me.
So your mom mostly cooks, but then you guys go to different...
Relative home. Not on the same Thanksgiving, but... And then here's a tradition. Because my mom loves cooking Thanksgiving so much and she's very good at it, when we do go to Thanksgiving at someone else's house, one day after Thanksgiving, we have another Thanksgiving dinner. Because my mom just really wants to cook it. And we make some really good desserts. Pumpkin cheesecake, a Bailey's cheesecake sometimes, pecan pie, of course. But we have these amazing sweet potato dishes. Bourbon sweet potatoes, Gruyere sweet potatoes. What about you?
My dad he pretty much makes every dish. He's a really good cook. He does this really amazing sweet potato casserole that has cornflakes on top of it with brown sugar, and it's delicious. He also does this wild rice dish that's really good with mushrooms in it. Sometimes with morels if we had a successful hunting season, which now he has a bountiful amount of dried morels. So
That's great.
I anticipate there'll be lots of morels today or Yes, today on Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving.
Well, what are your kind of big picture thoughts or reactions after watching this film?
Watching with Allison for a second time.
Oh, yeah.
We were about 20 minutes in, and there's a lot of rambling in the movie. And I was like, why did I recommend this movie? Why did I think it was good? It's really messy, kind of meandering. It's hard to understand sometimes what Robert Downey Jr. and Holly Hunter are talking about. It seems insular at times. And then it gets towards the end of the movie, and there's a wave of emotions where it taps into that feeling of when you're leaving your parents after the holidays, and they capture it so well. Basically, there's this whole story presented of Robert Downey Jr.'s character's gay. His family isn't so accepting of it.
Congratulations, honey. Yeah, may you and your husband live happily ever after, Mrs. Gordon. Or whatever the Christ you call yourself now. Or he does. Did you wear a dress?
No shit. You and Jack.
Yeah. When what? What? Where?
On a public beach. All those darling little friends who were prancing around like idiots and falling all over each other. He kissed him on the lips, you know? I mean, right in front of... Oh, I could throw up.
Turns out that he got married. Unbeknownst to the family, this husband isn't there. Holly Hunter's dad also shares a story about when she was a child, they went to go see the airplanes, and she was the only one that wasn't afraid compared to her siblings. And
he says something like, I think he used to work for the airline, so I was able to get you down to the tarmac. We were watching the planes take off, and your siblings were like clutching onto me, but you were looking straight out forward, just like me, so brave and fearless like you always are, is what he said.
Really moving.
And then they drive her to the airport. She looks forward and is fearless like she always is. And then it kind of goes into this montage because she finds him downstairs watching home videos. And then there's all these things referenced, like the wedding, everything all these memories that happened. I thought you were like, oh, is this good? Which it is. And so then from there, it goes into like all these memories as if you were looking through a camera. I have some interesting quotes about this we can get to later, but as if you're inside of a camera in these memories with the characters. So you get to see the wedding on the beach. You get to see the moment of the planes taking off and a bunch of other things that were referenced too.
Mm-hmm. All these things that were referenced that weren't captured because the father also says to Holly Hunter, I wish I had filmed it or I wish I had it on tape.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're basically seeing tape footage of all these things spanning so much time, all these moments that other family members didn't get to. Even me thinking about it right now, it's making me emotional. It's so effective. The movie overall, and I feel like you kind of shared with me, there was times where it was kind of confusing and the dialogue is like, what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
That ending, man, it is so effective and just really makes me love the film, honestly.
It's interesting. I think the ending was really powerful, and especially because the rest of it's so chaotic. It kind of feels like experiencing the mundane parts of life or the annoying parts of life. And then you look back and you're like, but they were so meaningful. It kind of feels like you're experiencing that reflection in a little snapshot, which I really love. But the first half of the movie, I don't know. I mean, I just think there's something a little off about how I think it would have been better if she had been the uptight sister. It would have been centered around her because it felt like Holly Hunter. It felt like she fit in. It didn't. And she was just
she was the one looking at everyone like they were. Well, yeah, she fit in with all the strange people.
I didn't know why she didn't want to go home from the second she got there. There were certain things that her parents, like the way they don't necessarily support her brother, of course, but the rest of it, there was nothing that they were doing that.
They were kind of pushing her to find a relationship.
That's true. Oh, yeah, the
mom found out that she
over.
didn't have a job anymore. So just stressors. But yeah, it kind of was lost on me. It would have made more sense if she was the Sarah Jessica Parker of this story.
Exactly.
And learned how to relax a little bit. A confusing thing is the dad says Holly Hunter's fearless, which I think was a really powerful role, and she seemed to be very affected by it. And something about the movie that I don't think it quite accomplished is they wanted to present Holly Hunter as full of fears. In the beginning of the movie, she's afraid to fly.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it wasn't very strong because there's also a scene on the airplane that's very distracting where the woman sitting next to her is eating, kind of like what we're doing right now, but they're doing close-up shots of her just suckling on chicken and talking to Holly Hunter. So you're totally distracted by the fact that you're supposed to understand that Holly Hunter's afraid of flying.
I didn't even remember that detail.
And also when Claire Danes is dropping her mom off the airport, Holly Hunter, I guess apparently is also again stressing how much she's afraid of flying. And then that's when Claire Danes says, remember the angelfish?
Do not panic. Just remember the fish. When we went snorkeling, how we all just floated there. Just you and me and the angelfish.
I know, honey, I know.
Just
float.
Just keep breathing.
Apparently they went on a trip somewhere and they saw an angelfish.
Oh.
And it's supposed to be a really important moment between the two of them. That's part of the footage that's shown at the end. So I remember I was like, what is this fish?
I forgot about that. Okay.
So I don't think like having Holly Hunter be like this like warrior, I don't know if it just came across very well. Like it didn't come across to me, and then it didn't feel like she really changed in the end.
And I think like to the way they had this romance, there's like this comedy of errors where the brother played by Robert Downey Jr. comes home with someone who's not the person that Holly has known her whole life as his partner, or most of their adult life as his partner. This is actually Robert Downey Jr.'s friend. It kind of sets up this tension where these characters, this guys come home for the holidays and Holly are clearly going to fall in love, but they don't really begin to explore that until maybe the last third of the movie. And then this whole idea of her being fearless is they have this great kiss, and then he goes up to her room and she goes, no, like I live in a totally different state. This can never work. And he says, how do you know that? She goes, just no. And then when she's with her parents the next day, she says something like,
The romance was explored so late. But yeah, she basically implied that she like
made
really
a mistake
and wants to be with him.
And then he's on the plane and it all works out. And I like the idea of them just feeling like we are connected and that's enough and we'll figure out the rest later. I kind of love that as a choice for a character. But yeah, I just don't feel like they explored her arc enough for it to really...
Wasn't the idea on the airplane, though, that they necessarily don't really know what their relationship is and you don't know if it will necessarily work out? Like they're just kind of exploring. Like they're taking the chance to explore.
That's what I mean, that they're taking the risk of getting hurt or it not working out, even though they live in different places.
I love it.
It's beautiful.
It's really beautiful.
But why wasn't he in the movie more in the beginning?
So, facts. I was going to say fun facts. It's not a fun fact. Robert Downey Jr. was going through a heroin addiction during this movie.
I have some quotes about that.
And Jodie Foster was like having him like ad-lib a lot. And it turns out he was like high for a lot of it. And a lot of times he showed up to set one day like rambling, wasn't making any sense. I think it led to his first like intervention and he had to go to rehab for the first time after shooting, I think.
Yeah, so here I have some quotes about this. So basically in some interview, Robert Downey Jr. said it was Jodie who like said something to me and really, really like helped me or something like that. And Jodie's like, that's not really how I remember it. By the way, this movie came out 25 years ago, almost. And so there's this big article.
Wait, no, it's 29 years old.
So this article's from a couple of years ago. It was from 2020. But they did this big article where they interviewed Jodie Foster about it, which I thought was really cool. And Robert Downey Jr. spoke about Home of the Holidays recently. He was on David Letterman's Netflix show and he was talking about the time of his life, mostly in the context of his current sobriety. Because he was inebriated during the production, he joked this performance is the most relaxed performance in the history of cinema. He also said, you told him, as in Jodie, well, looks like you're getting away with it on this one. I wouldn't try that again because we're kind of a forgiving group. And then Jodie says, well, I guess that's the gist of it, but I don't think that's exactly how that conversation sounded. I love Rob and we've continued to be friends. In fact, his wife, Susan Downey, did a movie with me. As I said to him then, as I say to him now, no matter what it was that you were going through, you never disappointed me. And I have to be clear about that, even though you were killing yourself. I was forever grateful for what he brought to the movie. He was 100% present as far as I was concerned. He was there and he brought a character that was rich and that was messed up and that was in pain and suffering. I think you could feel that underneath all of his bravado and his wit. You could feel that underneath somebody who was suffering. So yes, as the director, I can't say I took advantage, but his pain is on screen. In some ways, it was good for the movie. What I said to him on that particular day, and I've talked to him about this before, where he came to set and he was speaking in tongues and I couldn't understand a word he said, but he thought he was making sense. And then 20 minutes went by and then suddenly he actually started speaking English. I shut down the set and I said, so far, you are on a bar stool and you've managed not to fall off the bar stool. It's possible that you're going to find a way to prop yourself up, whatever it takes to prop yourself up for you. And now may not be the time, but I am afraid for you. Remember that part? And then, yeah, his family did intervention after.
So he's going through stuff. And I think it's pretty noticeable. He rambles a lot in this movie, and they should have cut a lot of it out because it was like didn't make any sense.
And he seemed like frenetic.
He's not responding at all. Mom, I have got the best trendy booze for you. It's apple cinnamon liqueur. We're pushing it all over the Northeast this year. It's a huge hit, but you get it first because you are a Belle Larson trendsetter. Spin, mommy. Spin, mommy. Mi grande madre with a light merengue backbeat, and you know you're digging it.
There's times where like they're literally like, I don't even know what the fuck he's talking about. It doesn't really have anything to do with what's going on. Or it's like something, sure, it's like a way you talk to your sibling, but it's like we're an audience. Like what the hell? Like what?
What did you think of his character in general?
He was fine. I was kind of annoyed at times. I'm just trying to think of a scene that sticks out to me. Like I liked the relationship that he has with his sister and is like really supportive of his, like clearly loves his sister, and I liked seeing them get along. What I didn't like is how their other sister was portrayed as like, she had like no character depth and they treated her so awfully. She was really uptight. I don't think she deserved to get turkey poured all over her.
Yeah, so there's this huge fight scene and okay, she clearly her and her husband clearly kind of suck. They pull up in the car. They see that
They're uptight. Like, they're kind of like wealthy people who have gotten out of...
No, they still live in that area.
I know, but they seem really put together.
Yeah, but I guess...
Their basements are being redone. Like, it seems like they have really nice things.
It's not so much, I mean more that like Holly is the one...
Who left
and went on to have this big life. And I think the sister feels a little bit trapped in her hometown and is very much like, I have to have a normal, perfect life. That's nothing like my family, my chaotic family, or the one who escaped everything. When they pull up at the house, in spite of them being uptight, there is a character flaw.
That's his car. So we'll just do our best to ignore him, Walter. We won't let him get to us, because that's what he thrives on.
I was told he wouldn't be here, Joanne, so I didn't prepare myself. I have to sit here for a minute and prepare myself.
They're clearly very homophobic. And they pull up and they see that Robert's there, and they're like, oh, I didn't know he was going to be here. And at that point in time, I was like, on Robert's side, I was like, oh, this is awful. But then I see how Robert interacts with everybody. He's very cruel, which, I mean, given the context of what's happening in his own life and how his family just acting as if they don't know that he's gay and like won't speak to him about it.
Holly Hunter brings up his sexuality when she's showering.
Life is just one big Hawaiian luau for your brother and that boy Leo.
Oh, come on, Mother. Leo's with Tommy.
Her mom tries humming over her speaking.
That's awful, but he's just kind of cruel. Like his sister gets into a fight with him and the other sister, Holly, in the car, kicks her out, drives away, pretends to let her back in, but then leaves her again on the side of the road. And then, yeah, there's this argument scene where everything's just very chaotic. And she reveals that he's married, which is very wrong to do. And she says, and it's really embarrassing. I know people in that beach town. So how could you do that to me? Like, what? Very horrible things. But then his response is to begin making fun of her physical appearance as a child and calling her like a monkey, I'm pretty sure, something like that. And then it somehow escalates to when, he dumps the disgusting turkey water all over her nice dress.
Yeah.
I mean, both of them are behaving atrociously.
But then I feel like the movie wants us to like laugh. Like, she deserves it. And
I was like, no.
She's being a piece of shit, but they like didn't really develop her character that much other than just be this like homophobe.
Mm-hmm.
And also what was really weird about that dinner scene is the aunt who appears to be really drunk and basically...
She's supposed to have dementia.
That's just dementia.
It wasn't
also
totally clear.
Geraldine Chaplin.
Yeah, which is, okay, say it more.
Charlie Chaplin's daughter.
It's amazing. There was one quote in the interview where she was like, oh, is she telling you a lot of stories on set? And they were like, no one bothered her about that. It's like, oh, darn. But actually, there's some interesting details about, it's very fitting that we're eating this because Jodie did have something to say about eating, which is... Principal photography began in February of 1995. Filming of the Thanksgiving dinner took more than 10 days using 64 turkeys, 20 pounds of mashed potatoes, 35 pounds of stuffing, 44 pies, 30 pounds of sweet potatoes, 18 bags of mini marshmallows, and 50 gallons of juice that stood in for wine.
That's a lot of food. Oh my God.
Yeah, but I liked the sister. Like, I liked the idea that she is like, her reaction to her family's chaos is to try and be as aggressively normal and focused on appearances as possible. I felt like that was very believable. And even though it caused her to have some inhuman, unempathetic reactions, to me, that made sense emotionally, like why she would become that way. And I just wish that there had been more screen time, especially because later on in the movie, they send Holly to go bring her plates back or something. And they have this really nice sister moment where she gets to say, you left, I'm stuck here with them.
What should I do then? Run away? Like you and Tommy? Yeah, just, live it up, right? No grown-up responsibility. Just wallow in your own exotic little lives.
You don't know the first thing about me, Joanne.
Oh, likewise, I'm sure.
We don't have to like each other, Joe. We're family.
Do you mind? This is the only thing I do all day that I like.
I felt like it could have been this really moving moment where they tried to see one another more clearly. Well, it was more like Holly was trying to be like, we're sisters, let's forgive each other. And the sister refused, but then cried when she left. And I thought that was really...
Well, they like held on her for a little bit. She looked clearly very sad. And it was like the most insight we got onto how she acts when nobody's watching.
That scene was also a good example of like kind of the way they tried to make everything so chaotic, but it was kind of just annoying. Remember the kid was in the room?
She was like doing like a workout.
Look, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Welcome to the Brittany
All
Lakes
I want to
Fitness Center.
do is stop the carnage.
Guaranteed.
I don't know when I'll be back, and I feel awful because Mom and Dad, we don't have to act like we're 10 years old, Joanne.
I'm 10 years old.
I know how old you are, sweetie, so how about you just scoot upstairs so I can speak to your mother here for 2 goddamn seconds?
Aunt so-and-so is up,
As like Holly Hunter's talking, it's like
shh.
Let's focus. Yeah, I feel like there were times where this movie needed to put more focus on things. Yeah, but that's crazy how much food they used over the course of 10 days, you said?
Mm-hmm.
And then they used like juice instead of wine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was wondering about that. I was like, this goes back to Geraldine Chaplin, her character with dementia, is like doing a toast and she's talking to the father and is like telling the story. She's like, when my sister brought you home for the first time, I knew that you were an amazing man.
I was 18 years old, and he was only 21, and we were both so nice looking. I can still taste the salt on his lips. Those soft, soft lips. And that tickly little little mustache.
I love you. Here's to you, you great man. And like everyone's like looking around. And then the mom, I like forgot where this storyline was going. I was like, oh, like, does she get upset?
Leo, would you pass my stuffing?
But then that doesn't really go anywhere. Then it changes to the moment where the one sister's being a piece of shit and then they pour turkey juice all over her. I think it was like supposed to show all this chaos, but it's like even when you're filming a scene of chaos, like it's supposed to be like controlled on like what chaos is happening. Sometimes I just kind of felt like they let everyone improvise too much.
Okay, yes. Contrast it with, it immediately makes you think of the famous Bear episode called Forks, where I think it's called Forks, maybe not, when they're eating their dinner at a holiday, and it is supposed to convey family chaos, and it does do that because it's loud, a bunch of stuff's happening at once, everyone's talking, but they have these motifs throughout, and one of them is the fork. The one brother's like, I'm going to throw this fork at you, and he says, don't you do that or it's going to be the last straw. And so they keep coming back to that conversation, so it kind of like anchors you into a rhythm.
Yeah.
And then it has like an ending where the mom drives through the wall.
Yeah.
And then it focuses on all the kids' reactions.
Merry Christmas.
I love that part so much. But yeah, and then they focus in on the people whose emotions matter, like Carmi, the sister, and you kind of see how it's affecting them.
Yeah.
And that's not what's happening
in this movie.
Here.
No. But I just feel like I really love the movie, just how it is a time capsule of 1995, which I was a young child then, so I don't really quite remember it. But just seeing like, I feel like it like documents things so well, like the phone booths at the airport, being able to greet your family at the entrance at the gate. That was just like really fun to see. And then just the whole concept too of visiting home and, you know, just like the classic story of like seeing like old friends or people you knew from high school in like your small town and being like not wanting to see them. There was the one scene with like Holly Hunter. They like go get groceries and they lock her out of the car and they like pranking her, and then a friend pulls up and it was like a friend from high school and she was like a beauty queen or something like that. And it was a really stifled and odd conversation. I don't really know what I was supposed to get out of it.
I think so. She was okay. Whoa. My brain just was telling me to say 5 different things at one time. So she was wearing a coat that was her mother's coat, and it was an embarrassing coat. It wasn't like her cool Chicago, I'm an adult lady with a job coat.
She's like, my real coat actually fits me.
Yeah. And then the other woman's like, aren't you divorced?
Which
is
like,
rude.
What? Why would you say that?
You know, just to be a little snarky. You know how women can be, Joe. Just kidding. I would never say that, even though I just did. But yeah, I guess this is a good time to talk about how it is based on a short story.
Oh yeah, tell me all about it.
So I wanted to read it and I could not find text of it. And then I found like on Amazon, there was a copy you could buy, but it was sold out or it was not available. I'm like, where is the story? So then I found a radio podcast or program.
Yeah.
Where they read stories for the holidays.
I love that.
I was like, oh, okay, I'll listen to this story. So I listened to it, and this, you know, like a Dear Sugar or so, like something like that, or a Dear Honey, you call in, it's like somebody who's like, let's talk about your problems. Let me tell you about the time my mom died. You know what I mean? It's like very personal. So it starts with this woman who's the host saying, oh, I picked a story it really means a lot to me, and the movie means a lot to me. And then she like lists, in fact, I think I wrote some of them down. Like she was like, oh, my dad died on Thanksgiving this year. And then on Valentine's Day. And he was a horrible person. So of course he chose Valentine's Day to die. So that we always have to think about him on that day.
That reads the short story.
Yes, and then it was like my mother died and it was very tough because of this reason and that reason. I wrote down blonde hair and ashes. I don't know why I wrote that down, but something, she was just saying all these really personal details and I was just like, ooh, like really, I'm sure if you were a regular listener of the program, it probably was very normal. But for me, it was very jarring. And then they go into this story and it was very different. It was focused on a woman coming home from Boston to her family's home. The whole story, it takes you through the day, but also takes you through like her anticipation of it being like, oh, well, you know, mom's so annoying because mom does this and she does that. You know, she comes into my room 4 times in the morning, you know, like all these little details that kind of paint the picture of like a woman who's just kind of getting in your way. And the same with the dad, like all these annoying quirks and very specific details. And her feeling very put upon, like, oh, I gotta go see them, I gotta go experience this. But then and there's no brother character, but there's no gay brother character. But as the story progresses, she starts to reflect about how strange it was when she was a little kid. These people were like gods to her, and she looked up to them. They knew everything about the world, and they were the ones with the big life who mattered so much, something like that. And then it keeps going. And then this is very similar to the movie where she's being driven to the airport by her parents, kind of like reflecting on how she's leaving again, and she won't have to put up with this until Christmas. Then they get to the airport and she's going down the long tarmac and her parents are like waving behind her. And she turns around and there had been an earlier part in the story where she said, I suddenly realized I was walking like my mom. And she's like, suddenly I saw them like I saw myself again. And then she says, they used to seem like gods to me. I know that they still want to be people that matter to the world that have, I can't remember it, but it was so powerful because it just showed how, yeah, your parents define your whole world. Then you grow up and you're like, oh, they're so annoying and so blah, blah, blah. But then it's like you have become the parent. You're in that age bracket and
you understand.
You're going to be moving into the next age bracket. And it was just and then there's like the love that keeps you connected, even though you're of different generations. And it was like this long tarmac. It was a very striking literary image that they were kind of.
So it sounds like that was a really strong part of the short story too, that they were able to recapture in this movie.
Absolutely.
I just feel like if this movie had 2 or 3 like really memorable scenes, like the dinner scene in what's that Sarah Jessica Parker movie?
Family Stone.
Family Stone has that really memorable scene. Like there's intense dinner scene. Then there's also the scene where they're running around and the table collapses and she dumps all the Morton straw on her. I mean, actually there's a lot of memorable scenes in that movie. She's also drunk at the bar. It's all I love the gays.
I love that movie, actually.
So I just feel like to have a successful Thanksgiving or Christmas or holiday movie, you just like really need those like really strong scenes that like grab people's attention. But I'm sure there's people like, I listened to a podcast that was talking about Home for the Holidays, and they're a few years older than us. And they seem to have actually they like love this movie very affectionately. So I think they're like raised on it. And like you were mentioning too at the beginning, like you had never heard of this movie and I had never seen it before until last year. So I wasn't as like sentimental. So it's like, I get why it doesn't go down as one of the big Thanksgiving movies, but what if it is the big Thanksgiving movies?
So I was intrigued by this. And I think this might have been a quote I'm pulling from Jodie Foster. It might have been something I read on Reddit or something like that. But it's because there's not a lot of Thanksgiving movies, probably because it's a domestic holiday or very much a U.S. holiday. So you can't really export the film in the same way that you can, say, like a Christmas film.
It's like if they tried making a Boxing Day movie. Would it do well?
Earlier today, we were talking about what Boxing Day is. You know, because it's coming up soon.
What's your favorite dish?
I like the green beans. I really like it all.
What's your favorite dish at home?
I really like all the side dish. I like the potatoes. I like the stuffing. I like green beans. I like any green, like a salad. And I love turkey.
It's really interesting because growing up, we would often go to Pontiac, Illinois, where my grandparents were for Thanksgiving. It was like a really special time. Or we'd switch off between like Christmas or Thanksgiving when we'd go. It's just so wild, like how quickly things can change because they both passed away like over 10 years ago now. And it's like, it's strange, like them passing away and traditions changing. And now it's like, we're already so far removed from the last time we all Thanksgiving together. It's just, the holidays really make one reflective. And emotional.
They do. They do.
Look, there's no real rules on Queer Cinema Catchup. You know, we'll talk about anything we want to talk about. That's basically what we do. And we look at it through a queer lens. But it's so interesting because so many like holiday movies explore like the idea of like family comes and visits from out of town and the children get displaced for their bedrooms. They have to sleep on the couch. Like all these like tropes. I say tropes like affectionately, like things that you can like relate to and experience growing up. Like you could attach, even with Robert Downey Jr. being gay in this movie. Like you can still, I think it's really interesting to talk about it through a queer lens too, because it's like returning home and you like comparing like the life that you created for yourself. And it's not even necessarily like queerness, right? It's like what you were talking about with the daughter used to look at her parents as gods, and then we all have like different lifestyles and things in different ways. It's like you come back for the holidays and you make those comparisons.
And you mix it all together in a big mashed potato mixing pot.
Yes. Do they have a pot that are specifically for mashed potatoes?
Ask my mom. I don't think so.
Get the mashed potato pot.
Where's my mashed? Did you ruin my mashed potato pot?
Yeah, it's probably just the biggest pot you can find is what that means.
That's like a really interesting point, because I do think like when we hear the word queer or gay or something like that, you think sexuality, but really so many experiences can be a othered or queer experience. And I think for the Holly character in this movie, it's like she's coming home, she's lost her job, she doesn't have a partner, like maybe her life doesn't look the way that she thinks her family wants it to look.
Also, we didn't mention Claire Danes goes, her 18 or 19-year-old daughter is like, instead of going home with her for the holidays, she's going to her boyfriend's for the holidays.
Well, I did say it very quickly, but...
And so that's like another aspect too, is like she doesn't have the support of her daughter, which I think she kind of like leans on a lot for her support.
Quote unquote queer experience, like, right? Entering a place where you feel othered.
But then, like we said, she kind of just seems to be quirky in ways just like her.
It didn't quite work in that sense, but it was the idea. Yeah. I think what you were also saying is like, yes, Robert Downey Jr.'s character is gay, but this is a movie that tries to speak to something universal, and I think it achieves that. But also, the fact that they had this character in the film, I mean, it was 1995, and the fact that he got married and you saw it on screen, that's actually extremely progressive. And I mean, we have to probably thank Jodie for that. But yeah, I have a couple quotes about that, if I should maybe.
Yeah, from Jodie.
From Jodie herself.
Wow, she won't stop talking about this movie.
Well, she was she said originally the brother was not gay. That was not part of the story and was not part of the original script, so that was something that we brought in. We wanted to create a real character. I think what's so powerful and why it's before its time is because it really is just based in the real world that we live in. These are people that are our brothers and our sisters. It never occurred to me to want to create a kind of victim story or even a coming out story. For me, at 30 years old, that felt kind of besides the point.
I'm sorry, she was 30 when she directed this?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot to... There's something really important I forgot to tell you about her thoughts on this movie. It wasn't about his acceptance of himself. It was about having to go home to a family when you already have a family. People that live in some subset groups, whether it's gay people, whether it's progressives, as opposed to going home for your conservative friends. Or maybe you don't live in a religious way, but your parents are religious. Your friends are your family, and that is very true of my generation. People that we got stuck in the elevator with that we didn't choose. Wait, it's the family that people stuck in the elevator?
Yeah, that's what it sounds
or is it the
it sounds like, yeah, I was confused. It's like, I chose my own friends and I was stuck in an elevator and I couldn't choose them. So she was 30, which I react that way because I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so young doing this.
I don't know why you think you're so much older than 30 all the time. You're like, oh, 30. Like, you're not that much older.
Anyway, she directed this when she was 30. And then the idea of like, I feel like I often hear this now. It's like, you know, my family are the friends that I choose.
Yeah.
To have them.
Chosen family.
Kind of like every like person in their late 20s, early 30s. So like single, and they like have friends where they're like married or with a partner, and then they kind of like build friends around that. But then I think eventually, right, you have kids, and then you
create a family.
Have your family that you've
well,
not necessarily chosen. But I hope you don't get rid of your kids.
I think it like, I don't want these kids.
I'm stuck in an elevator with them too.
I think it depends. I think that the idea of a chosen family, like, it's a powerful phrase for people who truly have been excommunicated from their families and do come to forge family ties with people who are not related to them by choice. And I think that that is a very important concept, and especially for a lot of queer people. But I hear what you're saying. I also think that it's kind of maybe overused a little bit these days in the pop culture zeitgeist. By myself, probably included in that. Like, I feel like I say it all the time when watching, the chosen family themes. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
You yourself don't say it.
No. Saying it right now, I have my family. My friends who feel like family, but, you know, I have my family and they're related to me by blood. So it's really interesting that you highlighted her age. And it's really interesting, something you kept saying when we were watching the movie. You kept saying, this is a movie, like, when you're in your 30s that you really get. Or something like that. You kept saying that. You said it like a couple times. And then, what do I find out about Jodie and her inspiration? She wanted to make something that appealed to people in their 30s. And she said she saw Little Man Tate, Home for the Holidays, and The Beaver as a trilogy.
What did you just say?
Jodie Foster, her movies that she's directed. She sees Little Man Tate, Home for the Holidays, and The Beaver as a kind of trilogy.
Oh.
And this is what she said. Little Man Tate was in some ways really autobiographical themes about being a child that was prodigious. I don't know that I was a child prodigy, but I was prodigious. It was about coming to terms with that and being different. Home for the Holidays was really about that very particular time in your life when you're 30 and you still feel kind of attached to your parents and your family. You still feel like a child. You feel infantilized by them. And you have this very particular search for meaning that happens in your 30s. Did I choose this life? Is this the life that I want? Where am I headed? I think all three of those movies, The Beaver as well, are about people in spiritual crisis. They're people who are undergoing a kind of life assessment and are changing or making these transitions.
Wow.
And I was like, oh.
I love that.
Me too.
Spiritual crisis.
Yeah.
I feel like
I've had
been
many.
in a spiritual crisis for 10 plus years
My spiritual crisis began back in
1991 when I was born. A spiritual crisis. I like that. Oh, another word for that is just kind of like unrest, right? Like something that you can't like quite shake.
Unsettled.
Yeah, unsettled.
Oh, she did have a quote in this article, by the way, which I'm just going to call out because anyone reads the article. At the end of the article, they ask her about being a woman director. She was like, it's really like one of the last barriers of sexism. I was like, I don't know about that, Jodie Foster. She was saying it's getting a lot better, but I still was like, why would you say that? Okay. Side note, it's an ensemble film. Do we generally like those kinds of films? And do we think this was a successful one?
But Holly Hunter's the main protagonist and we're following her story. So yes, it's an ensemble film. But I don't think we really cut away from people that often.
I guess you're right about that. So maybe my assessment of it as an ensemble is inaccurate.
But I mean, like there's people, the house is always crowded and there's like always hijinks happening all the time.
But yeah, we're not really following another person's arc.
No.
So it wasn't successful as an ensemble.
I feel like the parents kind of got lost. You know, they were really strong when like Holly Hunter first visits and you're seeing like how they're quirky and how they're really like on Holly Hunter, but then they kind of disappear like once the rest of the characters come, which I guess would be overwhelming if they were still so strong. But then, I don't know, but maybe it works. I don't know how I feel. I feel like it works for the most part, aside from the fact, as we talked earlier, just how it seems unfocused at times, even in the chaos. They don't have anything to like anchor you into what's going on.
It's because she has no big choice before her. It's just like there's nothing she's trying to do or accomplish.
Wasn't it during the movie at one point you're like, what is the
conflict?
Well,
yeah, but there really wasn't any. And I guess that's kind of the point of the movie is to be like in life, sometimes there's no conflict and you just are experiencing these wacky things and you're like, oh gosh. And then later on you're like, wow, I missed that time. And I guess that's kind of what the movie wanted to be about. But I just feel like it would be a stronger narrative if it was filtered through a very particular inner and external conflict.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you think that the Tommy, who's Robert Downey Jr.'s character, did you think he was outed?
No.
Me neither. But some of the reviews were saying there was the scene where the sister reveals about the wedding.
Well, yeah.
But it seemed like everybody...
How did the sister that seems to hate him? The way they...
I know, and they didn't explain that.
There wasn't a Facebook.
They didn't explain that. Well, maybe one of those people that she was worried about seeing saw it. That's
exactly what happened, yeah.
I saw a gay wedding on the beach.
Oh, yeah, how would she connect?
How would she know?
Maybe it was like a family member that now lives...
Or maybe a friend who knows Tommy. Okay. Do you feel like short stories... This is a really dumb question.
Are good?
This is like a leading question. Do you think short stories make good film? Yes, is the answer.
Well, yeah, because it's like you have the kernel of an idea expressed in a really short amount of time. And I think short stories can be really powerful and they can pack so much of a punch.
Totally. I have this theory that short stories are best for movies and books are best for TV series.
Oh, I see that.
Because like a short story, it has like the blueprint of a script kind of. That's why when I think about writing a screenplay versus writing a pilot, I feel like with a screenplay, I'm like creating a contained narrative, whereas with like a pilot, you're kind of setting everything up and you're going to explore it all in a lot more depth.
I agree. I think short stories do make good movies.
So glad I asked. Let me see if there's anything else. Okay. I think there's a couple other things, but should we take a little break to get our cake?
Yeah.
We have some dessert.
We're going to quickly do a scene change.
We have a pumpkin cream cheese. I don't know. It's something pumpkin. What's your favorite Thanksgiving dessert?
Pecan pie.
I don't dislike it, but I just...
Corn syrup and pecans, like
Is that what it is? Corn syrup?
pretty much.
Ugh.
I love it.
That makes me like it less.
My parents get so mad, and I think they stopped buying it. They'd get a big Costco size of pecan pie, and I'd always go in the fridge and I would just pick off the contents individually. And I always start off like trying to make it look like it's natural, and then at some point I would just like eat too many. My mom was like, "Just everybody eat the pecans off the pie. Just take a slice." I'm like, "No, I'm just nibbling." All right, please do the honors.
Oh, me? Little old me? I'm annoyed. I want some of that. But if we start over, which side do you want me to cut from?
Probably this side so the camera can see it.
All right.
And pumpkin cheesecake.
I don't remember what it is. A square cake is a challenge. Get off of Mom! And that's how I cut cakes, guys. I'm going to take a little of that special stuff, if you don't mind me doing that.
I mean, it's just kind of a
I
continuation.
guess it is.
The rest of your yellow
As I was about to do, I was sort of like, why do I want that so badly?
It is alluring.
I just love pretty things. Ooh, it's good. Wow. I think it's like a pumpkin bread, basically.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm getting blasted with sugar right now.
Does it taste like very different to you?
I mean, I feel like I taste the pumpkin, and that's what tastes unique is like the sugar of the pumpkin.
Mm.
It has a nice spice to it.
Yeah.
All right, what's left on the agenda? The gay agenda.
A lot is left on the gay agenda. Oh, two things. The thing about the memories that weren't captured on film, she said specifically that idea came to her because her whole life has been on cameras and been documented. And the truth is that some of my most important moments in my real life, my private life, there were no cameras, there were no trophies, there were no $1 million checks. They slipped through your fingers. The most impactful moments are moments that you share between another person. The two of you are the only people who know that it happened. You're the only two that can recall that memory or that experience. And so in the film, the father is constantly taking pictures like he wants to freeze something and say, this happened, this is real. I know because I got a picture of it. And the end is something that really happened during shooting. In the end, I said, I really want to go through and let the audience see what those moments were that were only shared by two people. And that was just really
beautiful.
Lovely.
My dad, I forget when he said this, I think it was like 10 years ago, we were taking photos and my dad mentioned how whenever there's like a beautiful sunset, most important to him is capturing people like with the sunset. But he was like, sometimes he was talking about his dad, my grandpa, being like, my dad like loves taking pictures of sunsets with like nobody in it. I thought it was like such an interesting like distinction as my dad want like so focused on like taking pictures of people, whereas my grandpa just like loved like taking pictures of sunsets. And then it was so funny because then I remember visiting Pontiac one time and just like seeing how many pictures of sunsets were like all around the house that he had taken.
That's so
and just like a little like picture of like a little like digital like nothing fancy. It was just something he wanted to capture. And then I thought it was interesting. My dad noticed that.
And he kind of made the choice to continue documenting sunsets, but to do it in his own way. What about you? Do you like take pictures of sunsets?
I do. I mean, I love like golden hour. It's like a really beautiful time. I was in a phase where I was like taking like, I love like taking time lapses. Like that was, I like love doing that. So yeah, I guess it rubbed off on me a little bit.
And are there people, and I guess I would say you definitely capture people because that's part of what you do.
Yeah.
We're doing it right now.
We're doing it right now. Captured.
I'm on film. I'll probably like look at this up eating and I won't like it, but that's okay.
Well, I've already consumed my cake very quickly.
You could always have more.
I might have a little more. But I think we can pretty much wrap it up.
Yeah, I'm just going to say two things. One, Jodie said that also said.
Oh my fucking God.
Jodie, thanks for giving this interview because it was the entire content of our podcast. She just said that she wanted this movie to be about a beautiful idea. And I think we underscored about the beautiful idea. So I am going to end by asking you a very important question. A very, very important question. You need to say what your favorite holiday is, what your favorite holiday film is, and what your favorite gay character in a holiday film is.
The last one might be hard to do. I think Thanksgiving might be my favorite just because it like you have it's a holiday all about food. I love eating, I love cooking. But then it also is the lead up to like Christmas. So you just like, there's so much joy. And like once the holiday's over, there's a twinge of sadness, but you like still have Christmas like right around the corner.
That's so true.
And then my favorite holiday film is the 2000 Christmas classic starring Jim Carrey in The Grinch.
Really? My mom hates that movie.
I love it. It's just, I remember having a really good memory is I was visiting, we were in town where my other grandparents living in Kelso and I have a bunch of cousins there. And there was one day we went and saw 102 Dalmatians. And then I think like one right after another. We went and saw The Grinch right after. We had like a double feature, like at the movie theater. It was just, like such a
That's fun.
fun time being with all my cousins, and we're just like at the movie, like watching so many movies. It's the holidays. I just have a really fond memory of that. And I just like love just like the stupid humor of The Grinch. I think it's so great.
I also like The Grinch. It's not my favorite, but I saw that for my birthday, which is around Thanksgiving, which is why Thanksgiving is also, for all the reasons you said, Thanksgiving is your favorite, but also for me, I also have to say, because I just feel like
Your birthday.
it's my birthday too, so it just makes me happy. And I like that everyone is already together, you know, so it's never like it has to be this extra. Yeah. I like that it's like, whatever, you know what I'm saying. And then you have to answer the last question.
My favorite gay character in a holiday film.
Or your favorite queer holiday movie. Queer coded holiday movie. Favorite queer thing. What's the queerest thing about Christmas?
Yeah, just say something.
You could say The Grinch. She's bullied as a child.
Yes. The Grinch is my favorite gay character.
Queer character.
Queer character.
Yeah, Thanksgiving for me. Then my favorite holiday film is probably It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
And
Were you saying it like that because
I have some doubt in my mind. I'm not sure what my favorite is. I don't know if I have.
I mean, that's the great thing about holiday movies. I feel like you don't really have to have a favorite.
That's
you
true.
know?
I like them all.
It's a collection.
Yeah. That's reassuring to me. Okay. My favorite queer character.
Okay, anyway.
Your queer character in a holiday film. I was going to say I love Happiest Season, but that's not a character. So
Aubrey Plaza in Happiest Season.
that's a great choice. Okay, I'm picking that, yes. Or you know what? I'd also like Dan Levy's character in that movie because he's just like a fairy godmother and it's
He
really
is.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I kind of enjoy it. It makes me laugh.
Yeah, it's great. Wow. Well, I hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving.
Please.
This is Queer Cinema Catchup, the movie we're talking. The movie.
Queer Cinema Catchup, the movie.
Queer Cinema Catchup is the podcast we talk about movies, TV, and miscellaneous topics through a queer lens. I'm Joe.
And I'm Allison.
Thank you so much for joining us. And once again, happy Thanksgiving.
This is Joseph Murphy, and welcome to our show.
1, 2, 3, 4. See, this is your mom, this is the car. It rammed into her mom, and then it hit a tree, and she was between them both. May I show you to your room? Thank you very much. I'll be comfortable here. Come on, help me! It's your turn. No, it's fine. Let's just skip that one. Okay.
There they go.